Am I the a-hole for not giving my biological dad my kidney and waiting for my adoptive dad's kidney surgery? I was adopted at age 4. I have never physically met my biological father. When I turned 19, my biological mom reached out to me, since the restraining orders were lifted once I turned 19. She and I had a rocky start. She mentioned being friends with my biological father on Facebook to my sister. My sister told me, and I reached out. He was happy to hear from me, and he was very open and kind. He answered all the hard questions honestly, and we developed a bond through text. When my biological mom found out, she mocked me, saying he told her I was weird for not speaking with them on the phone and only talking through text. I took this opportunity to ask my dad if we could chat on the phone. We began having short phone calls that I cherished. After a few years, we spoke about visiting. I wanted to travel to meet him and his family. However, I didn't have the funds yet. My adoptive father had been supportive and listened to all my concerns, helping me navigate the new challenges with my biological parents. Some years passed, and my adoptive father became ill. He had kidney failure and needed a new kidney. I worked hard to get my health in check in case I was a match. However, my adoptive father would not let me check to see if I was a match, nor would he allow his 3 biological children to be tested. We waited, and eventually a donor was found. During this time, I found out my biological father also had kidney failure and would need a kidney as well. I did not offer to help, nor did he ask. My biological dad became sicker and sicker while my adoptive dad became well again. My fiancé and I eloped. We still planned a wedding for the following year but wanted to be married. During our planning, I found out I was pregnant. I told my family, his family, and my biological father/mother. Everyone was elated. A few weeks before the wedding, I received a call from my biological dad's sister. They had been trying to reach me. My biological dad died during surgery. I felt horrible knowing we'd never meet in person. I beat myself up internally for not trying harder to visit. His family did not receive me well. They sent very mean and hurtful messages, saying I wasn't his child and that I'm not family, and that I was trying to get his money. They refused to acknowledge me and did not invite me to the funeral. I felt so small and insignificant. My biological mother found out and she cursed every one of his relatives out until they finally left me alone. She told me she was sorry for my loss and that she was there if I needed anything. Through my loss, I gained her acceptance, and we speak more frequently, even over the phone. I still have guilt because many of my biological father's relatives hate me for not giving him any kidney, and I have guilt for not seeing him or at least getting tested to see if I was a match. I hold this guilt, but should I have gotten tested and try to ease his pain? Now for the top comments. Don't blame yourself for that. When your dad was well, he could have made many efforts to go see you. Let that blame go and live your life. There's no guarantee you would have been a match even if you'd offered. And there is no guarantee that he would have survived the surgery. Not the a-hole. Donating a kidney is no small thing, especially for a young woman who still wants children. And you can survive without functioning kidneys for quite a long time, so you can wait for an organ without negatively impacting your child's future. Your fathers both decided to wait. That was their decision. They wanted you to have a normal future. If your biological father's family wanted to meet you, they could have invited you and covered the costs. They didn't. You did nothing wrong. His side still won't acknowledge me nor have anything to do with me at this point. I'm only in contact with his sister who called to give me the bad news. I gave her a full medical proxy of his estate and body. You've gotten along fine without them this long. You were raised by your family. Those other people are strangers. Let it be. Giving up a kidney is a huge thing, and he never asked you, so you have no reason to feel bad. Second, if your bio mom didn't inherit everything from your bio dad, then it kind of sounds like you could have been in your bio dad's will. I say this because, at least in the US, wills are typically written to specifically name your then living children and also say something should go to any other bio children you may have. If that's the case, then that's why they refused to acknowledge you and accused you of trying to get his money. I told his sister to use it towards his burial. It wasn't a lot. Next story. Am I the a-hole for refusing to let my parents move into my new house? I, 34 male, recently bought my first home after years of hard work and saving. It's a modest but beautiful house in a quiet neighborhood, and I'm incredibly proud of achieving this milestone. My parents, both in their late 60s, currently live in a rented apartment, and while they're not struggling financially, they've expressed concerns about retirement and wanting a more stable living arrangement. After I announced my house purchase, they approached me with the idea of moving in with me. They said it would give them a chance to downsize, save money, and spend more time with me. While I love my parents and respect everything they've done for me, I was honest and told them that I wanted this house to be my personal space. I've lived with them most of my life, and I was looking forward to having my independence. They didn't take it well. They accused me of being ungrateful, reminding me that they sacrificed a lot to support me through college and early adulthood. They even suggested that I owe it to them to give back now that I'm in a better financial position. Some extended family members also chimed in, saying I should honor my parents by letting them live with me. I tried explaining that while I'm happy to help them in other ways, like assisting with rent or finding a better place for them, I'm not ready to share my home. It's not about them personally. It's about finally having a space that's mine. Despite this, they continue to pressure me, and now I'm starting to feel like I might actually be selfish for saying no. So, am I the a-hole for refusing to let my parents move into my new house? Not the a-hole. The minute you allow them into your home, they will try to go back to the parent/child relationship and try to control every aspect of your life while having no respect for you. Don't do it. Save your sanity. Definitely this. They will take over everything. Your friends are too loud. Why are they here again? We don't like your groceries. Can you drive me into such and such? Why are you going out? Again? There will be seriously worn places on your sofa from them watching their shows. It will be a nightmare, and they will never leave. They should be proud of you for buying your own house, not trying to hijack your independence and home. Not the a-hole. Don't be silly. He won't have his sofa. The house will be full of his parents' furniture, and I'm sure they will take the master bedroom. There's 2 of them, so they need it more. Not the a-hole. You're allowed to have boundaries. Helping them financially is more than enough. You don't owe anyone your independence just because they are family. Exactly. Setting boundaries is important for maintaining your own well-being. And offering financial help doesn't mean sacrificing your independence. Plus, they're in their 60s. OP could be stuck with them for 30 to 40 years. They just hit retirement age, if they've even gotten there yet. They can take care of themselves, even if they don't want to do so. Kids don't owe their parents anything, and it's manipulation and emotional abuse to claim otherwise. Not the a-hole. You have every right to have your own space. Because let me tell you, once you start helping them, their entitlement will reach new highs. Just you watch. Seen it time and time again. Stand your ground. Keep healthy boundaries. And remember, they did their job as parents. And it's not for a payday at the end. They made those choices and they need to be okay with them. Next story. Am I the a-hole for telling my sister Sam that since her deadbeat boyfriend is back, I shouldn't have to cancel my life to help her with her kids anymore all the time? So I, female 21, have a sister Sam who has a deadbeat boyfriend Tavian. Tavian left 2 months ago but came back a week ago trying to play happy family. While he was gone, I filled the role of another parent. I had no problem doing this. But now he's back, and Sam asked me this morning, even though we got into it last night, that Tavian isn't feeling well, and I need to step up again and watch her kids. Now, I have appointments almost all day that I can't cancel. Plus, I have to go to the post office before they close, and also have a job interview today at 4. She didn't like this and told me it's my job as an aunt to step up when the parent can't. I told her she's ridiculous. Since I'm choosing not to have kids right now, I shouldn't have to be another parent to someone else's kids. I told her that I don't care if he is sick. He was away for 2 months, and all of a sudden he's back but isn't feeling well? Not my problem. She got mad at me and I hung up the phone. Tavian found me at the post office and started yelling at me outside, saying I'm a terrible aunt and that the kids look up to me. I told him at least I didn't leave for 2 months with literally no goodbye to anyone, and then suddenly came back pretending to care. Tavian told Sam what happened and she tried to get Kay and Nat involved. They both told her that I was clearly stating boundaries and that since Sam likes her boundaries to be respected, she needs to respect mine. So now I'm thinking of either going low contact or even no contact for my own mental health. So am I the a-hole for telling Sam that since her deadbeat boyfriend is back, I shouldn't have to cancel my life to help her with her kids all the time anymore? You should not have to cancel your life to help her with her kids all the time. Period. If you do, you're doing her a favor. It's not an obligation. Apart from that, the fact that their dad is not fulfilling his actual obligations is obviously bad. Why is it so hard for people in these situations to say this and mean it? Did not do the banging, not doing the rearing. That would be my answer to them both, and it wouldn't even be a long conversation or debate. That sentence is complete. Oh, so he was well enough to go to the post office, but not well enough to take care of his own kid? Tavian is a loser. Make sure he and your sister both know that. Not the a-hole. Their spawn, their problem. Yup, he actually hit me very hard as well. Some big guy had to step between us since I was about to explode. I don't put up with anyone, man or woman, hitting me for no reason. Next story. Am I the a-hole for insisting my brother and sister-in-law will be parents of the groom at mine and my fiancé's wedding? I, 26 male, was raised by my brother and sister-in-law. My brother is 14 years older than me, and he and sister-in-law met in high school and started dating. He was already bringing me up because our parents did not want to parent again. They weren't great to my brother, but at least kept him alive. Without my brother, that wouldn't have been true for me. I was dumped into his arms the day I was born, and they told him to figure it out. When he moved out, I moved with them, and sister-in-law's parents became my grandparents. We lived as a family from that point on. I call them mom and dad even though they never adopted me. Their kids together are my siblings, and we were raised as siblings with me as the big brother. They were there for everything and even helped me get into college. I met my fiancé in college, and she knows my family history as do her family. This was never a problem before wedding planning began, but some of her relatives, and she has stood up to them when it comes to this, have complained about my parents being listed as such, instead of being listed as brother and sister-in-law of the groom. They say it already sounds weird that I call people who look only a few years older than me mom and dad, but for the wedding, it will look awful, and like we're wild people to call people who could pass for just 10 years older parents of the groom. My fiancé said it's not those relatives' decisions and that they need to respect ours or they won't be at the wedding. They said I should realize, or someone in my family should realize, how trashy it will look to people and how my brother and sister-in-law will look to others. For those who ask, my family knows how my parents, siblings, and grandparents will be listed. I won't say they were demanding it, but it was expected since I called them mom and dad. Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. Whoever is creating drama because of this can get over themselves. How dare they demand you demean your brother and sister-in-law's efforts, raising you just for their special fees? They're the only parents you have ever known, and they deserve that recognition. I can't imagine the hurt they'd feel if they were erased on your special day. You're definitely not the a-hole. Your brother and sister-in-law raised you, and they deserve to be recognized as your parents on your special day. It's unfair for anyone to expect you to downplay that bond just to avoid making things uncomfortable for them. I'm just glad it's outsiders having a problem with it, and not your brother and sister-in-law suddenly refusing and turning their backs on you, as I feared when I read the title. Your wedding, your family, your choice. Everyone else needs to sit down and be quiet. Those worried about how trashy it will look to people can stay home so they won't be embarrassed. You and your fiancé don't need or want people like that in your lives. You're not the a-hole, but judgmental people are. Just curious, are you inviting your parents? I'm not inviting the people who made me. They're strangers to me and we don't have anything to do with them now. Last story. My dad's affair is going to break our family apart. Dad's affair has broken our family. I, 30 female, recently found out my dad, 57 male, has been having an affair with a work colleague. My mom, 54 female, and I are extremely close, and our family is very close. We speak daily and hang out almost weekly. I have no words to express the anger and hurt I am feeling. I know my dad didn't cheat on me, but in a way, it almost feels like he put his relationship with me and my 2-year-old son at risk by doing this. He knows I would never forgive him for something like this, nor would my mom and sisters. I've always idolized my dad and my parents' relationship. Now I don't even want to see him or speak to him. He doesn't know that we know yet. My mom hasn't confronted him, but we've seen the messages, and they paint a pretty clear picture. I don't know how I am ever meant to forgive him or move past this. He's completely destroyed my mom and our family by doing this. I just feel like I'm living in a really bad dream. My family is everything to me, and the thought of us not being all together and happy is soul-destroying. Am I in the wrong for not wanting to forgive him? Edited to add, the other thing that is killing me is that this woman he's having an affair with is the same age as my eldest sister, 34, just 4 years older than me. It just feels so strange to me. I can't explain how much I never ever imagined my dad would ever do this to my mom. It's really turned everything on its head for me. I know my dad didn't cheat on me. He did. A cheater betrays those they're in a relationship with and a family they're ruining. By extension, the family members are also betrayed. So yes, he did betray you at the same time he betrayed your mom. You and your siblings are entitled to hold him accountable for ruining the family. One could argue that failing to do so, not ensuring there are harsh consequences for what he's done, is in fact enabling him. I would advise not holding back when telling him exactly how despicable he is and going low contact with him while maximizing your support for your mom. My significant other always says choosing to have an affair is making a conscious choice to tear your family apart. I am sorry that you are all dealing with this. You're not wrong. There is no excuse for cheating. If you are unhappy, separate, then see other people. But cheating? It is the ultimate betrayal of trust and a demonstration of total disrespect. Support your mother. Your father has shown how little he values your mother and his family. He does not deserve that family. You would be more than justified in cutting him off. I certainly would if it were me. Update. Boyfriend faked his death and called my reaction manipulative. Original story. Me and my boyfriend, I'm 21 female, he's 24 male. Together for 3 years. Live apart but have/had plans to run together soon. Everything was perfect before this. Backstory. I have a history of self-harm. Have done since I was 11 years old. The last time I did it was 2 years ago. I have some brutal scars, but I'm doing much better and I'm in therapy. It's been a while since I even had a urge. My boyfriend had an ex before me who played mind games a lot. I feel it's relevant as he sometimes thinks I'm playing games when I'm not. For example, he was wary when we started dating that I would self-harm for attention or do it to punish him. His ex would threaten things like that if he ever left her. I don't/haven't ever done this, and despite my struggles, I'm pretty good with being patient and communicative. Until this, I considered us to have a really healthy relationship. Main story. Boyfriend went out drinking with his friends. I usually hear from him as he gets home, around 2 a.m., to let me know he is home and safe, but I didn't hear anything last night. I figured he just forgot. No biggie, so I went to bed as normal. I woke up at 11 a.m. to a bunch of missed calls from his mother. They live together. I called her back and she texted at 1 p.m. that she couldn't talk. I was kind of worried and told her as much. She said my boyfriend didn't get home last night and was in a crash and didn't make it. This was super weird to me since I get on well with his mom and would never expect to be told this via text. After some more texting, I fully believed my boyfriend had passed away that morning, and I totally shut down. The people I lived with were all out that day, so I was alone. Grief set in immediately, and I had an extremely bad relapse in my self-harm. At that point, I didn't even care. I was just hurting so much and my usual coping techniques just weren't doing their job. I listened to old voice notes of his, and even sent one telling him how much I loved him through the most unhinged sobbing I've ever done. Well, he arrived at my house 20 minutes later, saying it was a prank, since he got into a small bump and thought I'd get mad about him driving drunk, as well as about him mushing up his car a little. And him and his friends came up with this plan to just make me happy he was alright. So they took his mom's phone and the above happened. I obviously was thankful he wasn't dead, but I had a million other much stronger emotions. I was so angry he drove drunk. So angry he saw nothing wrong with it. So angry that he would lie about something so serious.
It absolutely heartbroken that he let me sit in grief for over an hour until I sent a voice note that made him feel bad. Plus lots of other things I'm still struggling to articulate. He found out I harmed and flew off the handle. He said I punished him and turned a harmless prank into something much more serious and ruined the joke of it. He said I was guilting him for having fun, and now he can't trust I won't do it again. He even suggested I stay in hospital for my mental issues for a few weeks and crank up therapy. He said he can't leave me if he wants now, or else I'll act like this, just like his ex. I am beyond hurt. I probably should look into therapy if I'm still resorting to it, I admit. But this wasn't an everyday bout of anxiety or even breakup. I thought he died. I'm also very aware that his actions were massively awful, and he is being so manipulative in the aftermath. How is it a punishment if I thought he was dead? I absolutely would not react like this if he just broke up with me, but I never said or hinted at that. Not really sure what to do now. My gut tells me to leave him over this, but I'm so unsure. Now for the top advice before reading the update. What a sick joke. You need to break things off ASAP. What a cruel thing to do. I can never even be friends with someone who did this. The worst part is that he did it to get away from the consequences of drinking and driving. He willingly and purposely hurt you to ease the repercussions of his actions. Let that sink in. Dump him, please. He's a piece of trash. He even took his mom's phone to make it look like she was in on it. That takes it to a whole new level of cruelty. OP, I would dump him immediately and tell his mom what he did. Make sure to actually talk to her so you know she actually knows what he did. Please listen to your gut. This is beyond horrible behavior, not a harmless prank. You deserve to be with someone who has compassion and respect for you. If anything, the boyfriend needs therapy. He was dead. You can't punish the dead. As it stands, if you don't need therapy before, having this BS pulled on you unleashed all sorts of things in your head, which required some working through. They are pranks, and they are pranks completely undeserving of the term. You weren't laughing before or after the revelation. In what world was this supposed to make you feel better? Go with your gut. Be done. There's no forgetting he did this. There's no forgetting how he made you feel. No decent partner does this. That wasn't a prank he pulled. It was a mind game with actual repercussions that he refuses to own. Like the above comment says, no decent partner does this. He is the one who needs help if he thinks his actions are in any way appropriate. Additionally, if he is drunk driving with friends who are encouraging this, then his overall judgment is severely impaired on more than one front. OP, be done with him. You've already mourned who you thought he was. Now celebrate getting away from who he showed himself to really be. Staying with him is only going to drag you back down and away from the strong recovery progress you'd made. Stay strong. Your boyfriend is a horrible person. What he did shows deep character flaws. The drunk driving is bad enough, the more so because he knew it was wrong and chose to do it anyway. But the harmless prank? That's just mean. So disrespectful and inconsiderate, made all the more so by your personal history. And speaking of the accident, did he leave the scene of an accident while he was driving drunk? Or was he late getting home because he got a DUI? He bumped into a fence post, so luckily nobody was injured. But the potential was there as well as the carelessness. I don't know if he was late or not, honestly. I think he planned this almost immediately, and not texting me all night is part of it. And now for the update. Long story short, I broke up with him for the following reasons. Drunk driving, endangering himself and others. Took his mother's phone and made me think it was her. Deception. Telling me he was dead. Deception/extreme emotional stress. Letting me think that for hours. I could list every negative trait for that one. Borderline sociopathic behavior. Not being sorry for any of these things. Telling me I'm too sensitive. Invalidation, shifting blame. Being mad at me for relapsing. Unsupportive, uncaring, unkind. I still won't blame him for the relapse though, as many people here wanted me to. That is on me and I'm still going to therapy regularly for that. So, for those interested, I took a few days to myself. I did speak over the phone to his mom, and she was incredibly apologetic on his behalf. I taught her how to put a passcode on her phone. After that, we met up and I outlined the things I listed above. He seemed apologetic and sincere about all of them and listened to me well. Unfortunately, he didn't quite understand that being apologetic wouldn't get me to change my mind in ending the relationship. He got annoyed at me for ending it, and again told me I was dramatic and other invalidating arguments. Oh well, I said what I needed to say, and that's enough closure for me. Told me I was dramatic. The guy who faked his own death calls you dramatic. You couldn't hold a candle to this guy to draw mistakes. You made the right decision to dump him. Well, I'm glad you didn't buy the fake I'm sorry act. It's so often used by really manipulative people to convince you they have changed. And I'm glad you saw right through that BS. Good on you. Life is too short wasting time in relationships like this. Agreed. As one of the lovesick puppies that kept going back to awful relationships because he was sorry and wouldn't ever do it again. I don't believe I'm sorry anymore. Not for that. He sounds like a psychopath? 100%. So glad Opie has been firm on this decision. The guy's terrifying with his callousness. Nah, psychopaths don't know why what they're doing is wrong. Sociopaths know and do it anyways. My oldest friend, we met when we were 14 and we are going to our 40s now. He faked his death to get back at me. He's an untreated schizophrenic with frequent bouts of paranoia. And over the years, I could recognize the cycles and signs and adjust accordingly. I have been verbally attacked many times and tempted into fights that I refuse to participate in. We've always come through the other side though, you know. I never thought he would fake his death. There's no way he would ever take his antics that far. But that is exactly what he did. His aunt messaged me while I was on vacation from his phone, stating that he was found mauled to death by a bear. Long story short, 6 months went by and the story wasn't adding up. There were so many questions that didn't have answers. Timelines that weren't adding up. This aunt that I had never heard of. I'm an ecologist who works in national parks here and there, and I kept abreast of bear attacks. None for him. No obituary shared by friends or family. You see where I'm going with this. He was estranged from his family for his refusal to get medicated, and I truly believe that they had him offed, or that it was offed by someone, and they were trying to hide it. I became investigative and paranoid and distraught. I took a hiatus from university in my senior year, went to therapy, quit my job, because I was so depressed and angry that this injustice took place, that his family didn't seem to care at all about his disappearance. 1 year went by and 1.5 years. I was beginning to recover myself when I get a text from his old phone number. I called it immediately because I thought someone was playing a cruel joke, and he answered. I'm trying to keep this short, so I'll skip what transpired mostly, but a key part was that he claimed to be the victim, asking me if I learned my lesson for not answering his phone calls while I was on vacation, gaslighting me into believing all of his issues were my fault because I never dated him, even though all the codes in the universe told him that we were soulmates. All that progress I did in that year and a half disappeared within that 10-minute call. It really screwed me up. I sympathize. I empathize. I'm sorry that you had to experience that. Cut the toxicity out of your life. Be strong for yourself. Move on. I lost my oldest friend that day, but truly, he wasn't a friend at all. Next story. I'm 30 female disabled and my partner, 33 male, punishes me by withholding help. We've been together for 13 years. We've lived together for 10. I'm disabled. I don't want to get into how, but I can't do most things for myself without any help. I can hardly walk in a straight line or without stumbling. I have no muscle or strength in my arms. My life involves never going outside except for doctor appointments and staying in bed most of the time. Sometimes I have to put my phone down because it's too heavy. I always have a headache and nausea. Always. We have so many arguments, and they're usually over small things. A lot of them are about him helping me. He doesn't refuse, but he will throw such a tantrum about things like taking the dog out or killing a bug flying around because I ask him to. For example, I'm scared to ask for anything. I know I'll hear a sigh, feet stomping, and a horrible remark. If my partner is cleaning something and I point out a missed spot, I get, "Do you want to do it?" Oh wait, I don't think it's fair. I'd do it if I could. I can't open bottles on my own. I can sometimes, but it'll take a long time and I'm tired afterwards. Just now I asked for some water and he sighed and got it for me. We just had an argument regarding finances, so he slammed it down and left the room. I noticed it was still sealed and closed. It seems like such a dumb thing to complain about, but he always opens bottles for me even if I don't ask. Except when he's mad. Same with opening doors for me. Going to the store to get something I need. Sometimes he won't even make us anything to eat because he's mad at me. I hear "do it yourself" in a smug voice at least once a month. You love hearing yourself talk, is the response when I try to talk about it. Is this abuse? What can I do? He's all I have, and I'm literally and figuratively trapped. Edit. It made it sound like I do nothing, but I do get up and help sometimes anyway, even if it hurts me. He's understanding and kind on good days. One wrong move for me, and it goes from 0 to 100 on a bad day though. Sounds like caretaker fatigue. Taking care of myself is enough work, but taking care of someone else for 10 years sounds rough. Not that it makes what is doing okay. It sounds like you're walking on eggshells. If leaving isn't an option, maybe there are things you could do to improve your situation. If you need something at the store, could you order it online instead? Same with food, maybe order in. A dog is a lot of work too, and I hate to even suggest it, but maybe look into rehoming it? That could help avoid more arguments about cleaning or taking the dog out. There are plastic grippers too that might help you open water bottles. Could you get yourself a food tray to use in bed to hold your phone? Counseling for the two of you would probably be a good idea. Other people mentioned in home care, which would probably be optimal in this situation, but I'm sure that's costly. Wishing you the best. This. I took care of a loved one when their health declined. I started getting snippy with them over little things. For example, they asked for a fork while I was literally getting one for them, and I felt so upset. Like, give me a second before asking. It blew up into something bigger than it needed to be because I was doing it all alone. I wish I had taken more time to myself to cope, but even showering myself was mentally exhausting after a while. I was depressed and going through the motions. I'm sorry he is speaking to you that way. Sounds like this is really difficult for both of you, and it is not your fault. I cannot imagine how difficult it must have been for you adjusting to life with a disability. And now your husband is burnt out and taking it out on you. Hopefully get some help for his burnt out and things turn around for you both. I apologize. And I don't mean this rudely by any means, but what is your partner getting out of your relationship? Is there even a relationship there, or has it maybe gone toward more of a caretaker type situation? In the best of circumstances and people with the best of intentions get worn down caring for family members or loved ones day in and day out. It's a lot, more than a lot of people realize. OP, you need home health, it sounds like, and your partner needs to attend some anger management classes, along with some therapy sessions. The therapy would probably be beneficial to you as well. There definitely needs to be changes made. It sounds pretty toxic and not healthy. If we aren't fighting, we fight several times a month, then we have a good relationship, seemingly. People who don't know our problems think we're a perfect couple, which just makes me sad, to be honest. We hang out all the time, be intimate, cuddle, the usual. It's just that most days he has to help me. Not like all day long, but many times a day. I know it's hard for him. I just wish he wouldn't punish or scream at me. Now for the last story. My 23 female boyfriend, 24 male, put me down after I jokingly referred to a co-worker as a work husband. So I talk to my boyfriend about work a lot like most people do, and I talk about my co-workers a lot. I frequently mention this guy, who I have no feelings for by the way, who's one of my best friends at work in addition to many other friends. My boyfriend joked about how we talk a lot, and I teased him and said he was like my work husband. My boyfriend paused for a moment, then said that a lot of guys aren't into the fact that I don't have that high of a libido, and that he was willing to overlook it unlike most men, and added, just let me know. It felt oddly personal, but at the same time maybe I hurt his feelings when I referred to the guy as my work husband. What do you think of this? Now for the advice. While his response leaves a lot to be desired, in his defense, you are throwing out a couple of signs that maybe you do in fact have a crush on this co-worker, and your joke only added another. Yup. Boyfriend's response was uncalled for, but so was calling someone else your work husband. Regardless of how it was meant, I feel like most people can agree that it's throwing out signals that you have feelings for this person, OP. Sounds like both of you have behaviors to apologize for. She totally does. You would never use that term in any other context. How many stories here about cheating start with my work blank? He interprets husband as being a more permanent, established relationship than boyfriend. You just downgraded him in comparison to your work colleague. Absolutely. The idea of a work husband is extremely disrespectful. Boyfriend probably should have responded with, I guess you don't need a boyfriend then. He could have gotten his warning shot in without attacking a potential insecurity. Am I the a-hole for kicking my sister out because she ignored my daughter asking for help because she said it wasn't her responsibility? So I am 45 male, my son is 21 male, Joseph, my daughter is 17 female, Becky, my sister is 50 female, while the mother of my kids / my late wife is dead, and my sister never married. So, my son has found a house closer to his college, so he went and drove out to check it out, then planned to spend the night at his buddy's place, then spend the rest of the day there, then come home. I was on a business trip. And my sister has moved in with us because she fell into a bad financial situation during these times. She doesn't pay rent or bills. So I was coming home from the business trip I mentioned above, and I get a call from Joseph, and he says that he's taking Becky to ER because she was in excruciating pain. I immediately joined them at ER, and apparently it's a ruptured appendix. My sister won't answer the phone, so I asked Joseph if he saw her before he left. And he said, yeah, she was in her room watching something on her phone. So then I asked Becky if she talked to her aunts before they left, and she said yes, and that she kept telling her and was practically begging her to do something and that it hurt. But she wouldn't do anything, and told her that she wasn't her responsibility. I lost my cool, so I left Joseph to watch Becky, after they had given her painkillers and put her to sleep. And the doctors had verbally told us anything we need to know, but I admit I need to work on thinking straight while angry. Then went to our house and I asked my sister why she didn't do anything. Or at least call me and told her about Becky's condition. She said that she thought she was complaining about period cramps or something. That with that knowledge, she didn't think it was her responsibility to do anything. I told her to leave. She then started apologizing like crazy, but I was seeing red, and I packed her things up and told her to leave. She drove away, and then I returned to the ER. So earlier today, while I was in the hospital, they had moved Becky. My sister calls me and says that she had to beg her friends for a place to stay, and that I'm such a bad person. I laughed and told her to reap what she sowed and hung up. But now looking back on the situation, I think I might be an a-hole for how rude I was to her and for kicking her out. So am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. Sounds like the next time she calls you, tell her she's not your responsibility. Not the a-hole. A 17-year-old has been through enough periods, most likely, to be able to handle period cramps herself without much complaining. That's just a BS excuse that your sister used because she didn't want to take care of her knees. 17 or not, if somebody comes to you in that much pain, take them to the hospital. I'm sure you'd rather pay the insurance bill for something minor, rather than your daughter sitting at home in excruciating pain with no answers. Also, women's periods change over the years and can suddenly become painful. Even if it were period issues, the cause could be cysts, fibroids, endometriosis, infections, etc. A 17-year-old, as you say, has been through enough periods to distinguish between painful but normal cramps and something more serious that requires immediate medical attention. Not the a-hole. Not the a-hole one bit. Even if she wasn't living with you, not helping a family member because she's busy watching something on her phone sucks. Considering she was living with you, she sounds pretty horrible. Her begging her friends and not having a place to stay? Not your responsibility. Not the a-hole. Your sister is a freeloader, first of all. Second, your daughter could have died, but your sister didn't care because she's lazy as hell. I'm glad you kicked her out. Please don't ever second guess yourself. Your daughter really could have died because your sister didn't care at all about anyone but herself. Not the a-hole. You helped your sister out when she was in a financial crisis when it wasn't your responsibility to do anything. And she can't even help your minor daughter out in a medical emergency? Listening to your daughter's symptoms is free. Calling 911 is free, especially since she was already on her phone. She sounds like a completely self-absorbed a-hole, and you were right to kick her to the curb. Next story is titled, Am I the a-hole for kicking my brother's fiancée out of my car on her engagement night? My brother's engagement dinner was last night. I don't like his fiancée for several reasons. She's mean and brutally honest with her comments about my life. Always tries to belittle me every chance she gets. Like belittling my degree and living situation. I'm civil though I have a temper, and sometimes I can be mean towards those with no respect. My wife passed away from breast cancer. We bought a car and it's the first decent car we got. And my wife and I didn't make a lot of money, so it was a challenge to save up. It was her choice, so I make sure to keep it maintained regularly. My brother's fiancé made comments about it, calling it a piece of junk. And it hurt because it's part of mine and my wife's past. When the party was over, my cousin left, was the one who got them to the restaurant, and my brother didn't want to take an Uber. He wanted me to give them a ride. I said okay, but his fiancée stood there saying she wasn't going to ride in that piece of junk on her engagement night. I got really annoyed by this comment, and my mom, who was in the passenger seat, did too. My brother spent 5 minutes convincing her, and she finally got inside the car, but didn't stop with her constant criticisms and how awful and dirty my car was, and continuously calling it a piece of junk. My brother said nothing, so I made eye contact via the rear view mirror and said if she called my car a piece of junk one more time, she's out. I don't care if I drop her off in the middle of nowhere. My brother's fiancée went quiet for a few minutes, then commented on the necklace that was hanging from the rear view mirror, calling it ugly, asking why it hang cheap, ugly stuff to make this piece of junk even uglier. I freaking had it. That necklace belongs to my wife, for Christ's sake. I got mad. I stopped the car and told her to shut up and get the hell out. My brother asked if I was serious, while my mom was trying to get me to continue driving. I repeatedly told her to get out, but didn't. So I got out, walked up to her side and opened the door for her to step out. She started crying, and my brother called me nuts for acting out like that. I told both of them to get out, and they did. I drove off, and Mom didn't stop yelling, saying I can't leave them on the street. They just got engaged. And told me to turn around and pick them up, but I screamed at her to stay the hell out of it, or she'll join them. She told the family what I did, and my dad was pissed, saying it was disgraceful to do this to my brother and his fiancée, and should be ashamed of myself for making a scene on their engagement night. He said I need serious help for my anger, and should have just sucked it up till I got home. Mid-argument, I walked out, leaving him talking to himself. I'm sure my brother doesn't want to see me for letting him down on a special night in his life, but his fiancée was being disrespectful. So was I the a-hole? Edit. She did not know that the necklace belonged to my late wife, so while she shouldn't have commented on it, I could see that she wasn't aware of its sentimental value. Not the a-hole. People who are proud of having a brutally honest personality just enjoy being cruel. You had every right to defend your deceased wife's necklace and your belongings. You'd be upset with yourself if you didn't. I'm sorry for your loss. Brutally honest is just code to I'm an a-hole, deal with it. Can't see that marriage lasting long. I came here to say just that. Every self-described brutally honest person I've met is a thin-skinned a-hole can dish out but not take it. Not the a-hole. The fact that it was their engagement party is not even relevant to this. In no way does that excuse her awful behavior. No, it doesn't excuse her behavior. I get my brother didn't do anything wrong, but he was there and saw how the fight started, and to blame me solely for the fight I think is unfair. My dad said I needed to get a grip because he knows how I can be sometimes, but if he wants to blame, then he should blame her as well. Not the a-hole. Assuming that you left them somewhere where they can get home from, and weren't in immediate danger of being eaten by a wolf. Why on earth is your brother more assertive with his fiancée when trying to save $20 in an Uber than when she's cruelly insulting his sibling? I don't know why he refused to take an Uber in the first place, but I think it's because his fiancée thought it'd harm her prestige. I could see how she was making insensitive comments about the necklace since she didn't know it belongs to my wife, but her attitude was too much to handle, frankly. Now for the next story. Am I the a-hole for telling my in-laws I'll never cook for them because I don't cook for ungrateful people? My in-laws are big food people. They're also the kind of people who complain about food they get behind a cook's back. I always knew this about my in-laws. My husband warned me, told me he had told them to knock it off before, but they won't, so he refuses to engage. They are that ungrateful that when my grandmother-in-law died, his family were all witching about the food a neighbor brought out to them. Casserole, salad, sandwiches, pizzas, and saying how bland or mad the food was. The food was tasty, and there wasn't a damn thing wrong with it. That's just them. They never talk like that about each other's food, but as an in-law, you're not exactly exempt from criticism. Another time, they were at a neighborhood barbecue and complained about the stuff other people brought. Even saying something about food a 12-year-old prepared. They made little skewers. And saying it was so obviously a child's cooking, meaning nothing special, as they put it. So anyway, my sister-in-law had her youngest christening recently. She had hired a caterer and they cancelled the last minute. Workers came down with COVID. They ended up asking me if I would help get food together for it. I said no. My husband told them we were busy and didn't have the time for it. Sister-in-law said I usually have chill Saturdays and could easily prepare something. He spoke to them and said in no uncertain terms that I owe them food. What followed was, they stopped by while he was working and I was home, and asking me to make a couple of pizzas for the christening party. I told them they already had their answer. They told me I could get some money thrown my way for it. I told them even if they paid me double the standard price of 2 pizzas, I still wouldn't cook for them with how they treat food made by other people. They told me being part of the family means having to sometimes, and I said I would never cook for them because I don't cook for ungrateful people. They're pissed, and a few of them called me an a-hole. My husband told me they were acting like kids, and I was fine. Part of me feels like the a-hole because I know how they are and I engaged with them. Am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. Stand your ground. They sound awful. You're completely right. There's no point making anything when you already know they'll criticize it. Part of me wonders if that's why the caterer cancelled. She knew she'd get a bad review from them. This. They're going to complain about it, so why make it? If you took the money, they'd feel more entitled to complain. Basically, they're going to complain if OP does it and complain when OP doesn't. So why bother putting in the effort? I hate people who complain about food but will still eat them. That's just looking for something to pick on. Not the a-hole. They were told no several times. Only when they continually press did you lay it all out for them. Do not let them bully you. Kudos to your husband for having your back with his family. Yeah, most of these stories have the husband rolling over to avoid conflict. Not the a-hole. I honestly also feel weird about them putting so much pressure on Opie to make food for them, even when they already said no. It makes me feel like they really want other people to bring food so they can criticize it, as if it's a family hobby. Not the a-hole. I've heard you talk crap about every single thing I've ever seen you eat. Why would I want to cook for you? That's not rhetorical. Please, tell me why that would make sense. Last story. Am I the a-hole for kicking out my friend after she broke my antique easel accidentally? In World War II, my grandpa was stationed in Germany and became friends with a well-known local artist who happened to be Jewish. My grandpa helped him flee the country, and in return, the artist gave him his handcrafted easel, which was already considered an antique at the time. When I was 12, my grandpa passed away and he left me the easel as he knew I wanted to be an artist myself. The easel is worth around $4,000 and is insured. I keep it in my art studio in the far corner of the room, out of the way where it displays my favorite painting. Last week on Friday, we had a small get-together with our friends for the first time since being fully vaccinated. Whenever we have a group of people over, we hang a sign across our stairs that says "Do not cross." I collect antiques, which we display upstairs, and that's also where my art studio is. All of our friends know this is why we don't want people up there. One of our friends, Emily, spilled wine down her shirt, while our downstairs bathroom was occupied, so I let her go upstairs to use the one off of our bedroom. I did not specifically tell her not to go anywhere else upstairs, as I assumed she knew based on the sign that we didn't want people hanging out up there. After about 20 minutes, I realized Emily still didn't come down, so I went up to check on her. She wasn't in the bathroom, so I started looking for her and found her in my art studio on the opposite side of the house from the bathroom. The door had been shut. She was standing over my easel, which had fallen and hit a windowsill, which cracked one of the legs. She immediately apologized, which I said I appreciated, but I asked her to leave as she had broken my trust and boundaries. I told her there was absolutely no reason she should have been in that room, and she said she was just curious. I told her that was no excuse, and again asked her to leave, which she did while crying. Emily did know the story of the easel and knows how protective I am of it. I have not talked to her since it happened. Our friend group is split. Some think I was too harsh since it was an accident. Others says she was snooping and deserved to be kicked out. Am I the a-hole? Info. Emily and I have been friends for years, although I wouldn't call her my best friend. We are both part of the same close-knit friend group and do hang out alone on occasion. Everyone in the group views Emily as our kid sister, because she grew up in a very sheltered household and can tend to be a bit ignorant sometimes. We all tend to protect her because of this, and that's why I think some of our friends think I'm being too harsh. As for the repairs, I reached out to a museum a couple of hours away that does beautiful restoration work. They sounded optimistic, but advised that there may be a permanent mark where the crack is and a loss of value. We are waiting to hear back on the estimated cost before we send it to be fixed. Not only did she snoop, but she touched it, causing it to fall. It's not like the weight of her glance caused it to fall over. And she knew how important it was to you and how delicate it was, which makes it even worse. In that moment, she disregarded your feelings and your physical boundaries. She deemed her curiosity or whatever as being more important. It is not even the story of origin that made it important, but the fact that it was from your grandpa to you, and it was important to him. I'd honestly never allow her in my home again, and our friendship would be completely different and beyond full repair. Not today, Hull. Thank you. Your response makes me feel a lot better about my reaction. The easel is adjustable and can be folded to become portable, and I think she was messing with that when it fell. I'm not 100% sure, but the part that holds the paintings had been adjusted, so I'm assuming she had been trying to adjust other parts of it as well. I'm so heartbroken about the entire situation, and I don't know if I'll be able to get over this violated feeling. So she had gone as far as physically manipulating it. That's outrageous, especially with an old treasured piece. If she was curious about how it worked, she could have asked you to demonstrate some time. Instead, she took advantage of being allowed to use the bathroom. As for now, she's shown you she can't be trusted to respect you and your property. You were acting accordingly. She crossed your boundaries, and in the process broke a prized possession. Not today, Hull. Not today, Hull. You literally had a sign saying don't cross, and she still went in the room. Stupid games equals stupid rewards.